Hi, my name is Wolfe. I'm a Pediatric Physical Therapist for Emerge Pediatric Therapy, and today we are going to be talking through shoes for your new walker or your toddler. I have a couple different examples here that we're going to go over, and we are going to talk about some of the important things to look for when you're shoe shopping. To go with this talk, we will also have a printout that you can use either when you're at the store and you're shopping, but it also includes links and has names of specific shoes by specific brands. That way, if you prefer to shop from home, you can try that as well. So I hope you find this talk useful. We are going to start with some of the big things to look for in your brand new walker shoe. So these would be shoes for kiddos that are just starting to pull up to stand, starting to cruise. Maybe your child is starting to stand independently for a couple of seconds at a time or take their first couple of independent steps. So for those children, you are going to want a shoe that is still going to allow their smaller foot muscles, we call those their intrinsic foot muscles, to work. We want those muscles to continue to get stronger so they can help to build an arch and they can help to develop balance reactions. For those kiddos, you want their foot to be protected in a shoe, but you still want something that's flexible enough that they have the ability to work on those foot muscles and those ankle muscles. So things you're looking for are something like this is a Stride Right. It's from their soft motion collection, which is linked in our document that you can get to through this talk. So this shoe is still going to be pretty flexible. You can see that the bottom is pretty movable, but things that we really like about it are this nice deep heel cup. So that is really going to help to support the ankle to allow your kiddos' alignment to look as good as possible while still working the right muscles. So deep heel cup, nice and flexible. Other big thing that we're really looking for in new walker shoes and shoes for our toddlers are a really wide toe box. So we expect young walkers and toddlers, even some adults, to have a wider toe splay. So that really means that we want to give it as much room as possible for their toes to spread out, to wiggle around. We don't want to restrict that movement. We want to allow that to be there for balance reactions. It also helps with strengthening. And more than anything, it kind of allows the foot to develop naturally. Any restriction of that toe splay could later cause us to have toe curling. It could kind of not allow the foot muscles to strengthen as well. So two different shoes I can show you are, we can compare this one to this Nike, which when you look at those next to each other, you can really see that this toe box where it stays nice and wide through kind of the middle of the foot and the forefoot, this one really narrows in and then it does come back out, but it definitely doesn't get back to the point where it's wide enough for a great toe splay. When we're kind of looking at comparison of different shoes, I'm going to show you two shoes that are actually the same size, but when you look at them next to each other, it's pretty clear that they are very different in sizing. That's really common across brands, especially for young kids. So when we compare these two, big things that we're looking at are that this one is going to be a little bit more flexible through the midfoot. The material that the bottom is made out of is actually really rigid and you really can't bend it a lot. You also see that it's much more narrow on the Nike through the toe box versus this one is by Granimals, and that is nice and wide through the toe box. So if we were looking at these two shoes, this one, the Granimals brand, is really the one that I would probably suggest for new walkers and toddlers to be able to allow their foot muscles to do as much work as possible while also still giving them just a little bit of support. As we move away from kind of the first walker shoes, as your child outgrows that first pair, they are generally ready to move into more of a toddler shoe, which does not have to be kind of from a line of first walker shoes. There are still some things you would want to watch for that would be important based on your child's kind of muscle tone, the structure of their foot, and kind of where they are in terms of movement. If you have a child that has a pretty typically developing foot, you notice that they maybe have a small arch, they are generally using kind of their full foot or their heel to contact initially when they take a step, and then they're pushing off of at least their big toe and a couple of other toes. In that case, you could pick from a lot of different types of shoes. The big things you still want to consider, I'm going to grab a Sekai Run shoe. So this is Sekai Run for Target. This is still going to be pretty flexible, which is exactly what you want. You still want foot muscles to work. It's still gonna have a nice deep heel cut back here. Gonna give a little bit of support, but not a ton, so that their ankle muscles are still strengthening, and then still gonna have this nice wide toe box. This is what you could generally use for most kids as they outgrow that first walker shoe. This is what you would those are still some of the same things that you'd want to have them in for their next shoe. If you have a kiddo that you notice seems to have a flatter foot, that they are really coming off of that big toe when they push off during walking and running speeds, you might want something with a little bit more support. So this one is from Stride Right. It's really shaped more like a boot, and it is gonna give a little bit more support than a typical kind of sneaker bunny. So definitely more rigid, still has a nice wide toe box, giving really good ankle support back here. So this might be a good option if you notice that your child has a more flexible foot. The goals of shoes for kiddos that are new walkers or into toddlerhood is we still want to promote really good leg alignment. So we still want to promote that ankles are in line with knee, is in line with hip, and that as they move through the different phases of walking and running, that they are able to keep that alignment, and that they are eventually using kind of a heel to toe pattern. So we know there's a lot of change in the walking and running patterns of kids for the first 6 months to a year that they start walking. But some things that you may notice is that in one pair of shoes, they look great, and in another pair of shoes, maybe they have a much harder time. In those cases, I would suggest that you allow them to wear those shoes that really support their alignment the best, because kids take a lot of steps, and every time they're taking a step, they're training their muscles on what to do during walking and running and how to learn balance reactions. While we're here, I'm also gonna show you guys some sandals that are made for little girls. Then we're gonna go through sandals for girls and boys and what you might wanna look for there. So I have two kind of different little girls' shoes. We're gonna go through some pros and cons for each. When you look at them initially, you're like, oh, they're perfect. They both have this nice strap across the toes. They both have a strap in the back. That's great. But then when you really start looking at them, what you find with this one is actually that it's like super thin and really like not gonna give any support. So this is not something that I would recommend for any toddlers or new walkers. You know, it might be cute for something like a photo shoot or for like a very short period of time, but in terms of what you would send them into daycare or what you would expect them to wear at a park, this is probably not what you'd want to pick. You would want to pick something that has a little bit more of a sturdy heel cup that is still going to have a strap across the ankle to really hold their foot in place, but that would also give them the ability to utilize that shoe for things like climbing and agility skills, which is what they'd be working on if they're outside a lot or just kind of running around during the day. So again, we have created a kind of PDF document of some different types of shoes that you might find helpful. It does link to specific brands, but it also gives you some tips of things to watch for when you're shopping. And if you think that that might be helpful, then you can use our printout when you go shoe shopping, and it might just help guide you in the right direction. If you have questions for us on shoes, you can leave us comments and we will try to get back to you on anything we can do to help with your shoe purchase journey. I hope you found this helpful. We look forward to seeing you. Bye.